Clarence Williams III strode onto every set with a quiet intensity that made even Hollywood's biggest stars take notice. And, in some cases, take cover. Tall and lean, with penetrating eyes and a voice that rumbled like distant thunder, he embodied characters so magnetic and dangerous that the label Hollywood's most feared soon followed him like a shadow. But beneath that formidable screen presence lay a man driven by principle, creativity, and an unwavering refusal to be pigeonholed by an industry notorious for its racial stereotypes. Tonight, we unravel the story of the actor who turned fear into power, who transformed every villainous role into a statement, and whose off-camera convictions scared studios almost as much as his on-screen personas scared their audiences. Born August 21, 1939, in New York City's Harlem neighborhood, Clarence Williams III emerged from a family steeped in artistic excellence. His mother, Alta May, sang in church choirs. His father, Clarence Williams Jr., wrote scholarly essays and worked in public relations. Granduncle Fletcher Henderson had been a pioneering jazz band leader whose arrangements shaped the sound of swing. Yet young Clarence found his own calling in the world of theater. After high school, he studied at the College of Visual Arts in Manhattan and the neighborhood playhouse under Sanford Meisner, one of America's most influential acting coaches. There, he learned to mine the depths of human emotion, to find the truth in every anger, every fear, every whisper. By the early 1960s, Williams had already racked up stage credits at the American Shakespeare Festival and Lincoln Center Repertory Company, proving his range in classics from Othello to A Raisin in the Sun. But theater's spotlight only hinted at what he'd achieve on screen. In 1967, he landed a small but electrifying role opposite Frank Sinatra and Tony Rome, injecting the crime thriller with a moral complexity that critics savored. Hollywood took note, but it wasn't until a year later that he seized the cultural zeitgeist. Cast as Lincoln Link, Hayes in the Mod Squad, Williams became part of television history. One-third of an interracial trio fighting crime, pushing social boundaries, and confronting issues from Vietnam protests to racial injustice. In a time when black leads were still a rarity, Link's cool resilience and unflinching integrity made Williams both a hero and a force to be reckoned with. Yet it was the darker roles that cemented his reputation as the man you don't want to meet in a dark alley. In the 1974 gangster film The Black Godfather, he played a calculating crime boss whose ambition eclipsed his empathy, crafting a chilling portrait of power corrupted. His performance was so raw, so visceral, that word spread through studio corridors. Casting Clarence meant embracing his unvarnished realism, or risking a volatile, unpredictable presence. Directors on subsequent projects often whispered warnings. He's wonderful, but watch the temper. In fact, Williams nurtured no temper tantrums. His intensity sprang from a demand for authenticity. He refused to shrink from violence, complexity, or moral ambiguity, insisting that audiences handle the darkness he portrayed. Off-screen, Williams's convictions ran just as deep. In 1964, he helped co-found the Negro Ensemble Company, a groundbreaking black theater troupe dedicated to nurturing African-American playwrights, actors, and directors. At a time when mainstream stages ignored black narratives, NEC became an incubator for cultural truth, producing landmark plays like A Soldier's Play by Charles Fuller, which later won a Pulitzer Prize. Williams poured energy and resources into the company, often working for little or no pay, because he believed in altering Hollywood's warped mirror of black lives. His belief, representation without nuance was worse than no representation at all. Despite his advocacy, Williams faced setbacks. Studios dreaded his fierce independence. He turned down roles that veered into caricature, choosing to sit out of lucrative franchise offers rather than perpetuate demeaning stereotypes. Agents warned him he risked obscurity. Producers suggested he'd burn too many bridges. But Williams stood firm, guided by an unwavering moral compass. The fear he inspired in executives became as much a testament to his integrity as the dread his on-screen villains elicited in audiences. In the years that followed, Williams navigated a filmography as eclectic as it was bold. The Steely Club owner in Purple Rain who coolly dispatched fence jumpers with a single pistol shot. The brooding mob boss in the cult classic The Mac who preached black empowerment one second and slaughtered rivals the next. even a cameo as the mysterious Andrew Packard in Twin Peaks, weaving more tension in silent scenes than many actors could conjure in a monologue. Each role carried the same frisson. Viewers watched, hearts pounding, unsure whether they admired his swagger or feared what he might do next. Yet for all the terror his characters inspired, colleagues remember Clarence Williams III as gentle, thoughtful, and fiercely loyal. He mentored younger Black actors, offering guidance on navigating an industry that too often commodified their talents while ignoring their humanity. He donated time to community arts programs in Harlem, teaching drama classes that emphasized storytelling from the soul rather than shallow mimicry. And when he spoke at award ceremonies, he used his platform to criticize tokenistic casting and call for systemic change. In many ways, his life reflected the very tension he portrayed on screen. The collision of fear and respect, of artistry and activism, of solitude and solidarity. He triumphed not simply through his talent, but through the courage to be unafraid. Unafraid to demand better roles, unafraid to risk career advancement for personal principle, and unafraid to reveal the raw edges of humanity that so many preferred to keep hidden. Clarence Williams III didn't just play Hollywood's most feared man. He became its moral conscience, proving that true power lies in facing fear head-on and transforming it into force for change. After Charlie Lawton's booming interpretations and Marlon Brando's simmering method madness, Clarence crashed onto the screen with something altogether different. A visceral authenticity that sprang from his soul rather than a studio handbook. By the early 1970s, as Hollywood scrambled to redefine itself in the post-studio era, Williams wasn't chasing trends, he was creating them. His next move was a small but incendiary turn in Mean Streets. Though his scenes were brief, the intensity he exuded as a streetwise enforcer left an imprint on Scorsese himself, who later confessed that Clarence's raw edge informed the director's approach to portraying urban underbellies. While supporting actors came and went, Williams carved himself a unique niche, the everyman villain with a philosopher's patience and a warrior's readiness to strike. The transition from the stage to the big screen often strips actors of nuance, but for Clarence, it stripped away pretension. He approached each character as if excavating a hidden layer of humanity, even when that humanity was steeped in malice. Take his chilling performance in The Black Godfather, where his crime boss holds court in a smoke-filled backroom, dispensing wisdom about power before ordering hits on rival families. That scene read like Shakespeare on meth, language braided with ambition and betrayal, and Williams delivered it like a man preaching sermon and death sentence in the same breath. Colleagues who watched that sequence say cameras kept rolling long after the take, because nobody dared break the spell he'd woven. Off camera, he forged partnerships that reverberate to this day. In 1967, he joined forces with Douglas Turner Ward and Robert Hooks to build the Negro Ensemble Company, a theatrical collective aimed at elevating Black voices at a time when mainstream stages relegated them to caricatures. Williams threw his weight behind the cause, financially underwriting productions, guest directing plays, even sleeping on wooden benches in rehearsal spaces when funds ran dry. His advocacy extended beyond glorified patronage. He demanded scripts that portrayed Black characters in full dimension, refusing to participate in projects that peddled stereotypes of servitude or violence without context. If a producer balked, Williams simply walked away, content to let the power brokers grapple with an empty chair rather than compromise his principles. That same ironclad integrity marked his choices in cinema. When Hollywood offered him demands made. In that homage, Hollywood acknowledged the enduring force of a figure who wrote his own rules and made us all reconsider the nature of fear. Indeed, even as Hollywood chased bigger budgets and CGI spectacles in the 21st century, Clarence Williams III carved a distinct path by choosing roles that prioritized substance over scale. He turned down franchise leads, instead embracing independent projects where a single gesture could resonate louder than any blockbuster explosion. In the mid-2000s, he appeared in nuanced dramas about grassroots activists, embodying characters grappling with moral dilemmas and deep regret. Directors who collaborated with him often marveled at his ability to transform a silent pause into an emotional earthquake, proving his raw intensity remained undiminished. These smaller, Purpose-driven films allowed him to refine his craft without bowing to mass-market demands, reinforcing his reputation as a performer who invoked fear not to terrify, but to deepen audience empathy with unparalleled authenticity that few could match. Even as technology reshaped entertainment, he remained vigilant about the power dynamics behind every scene. In 2005, Williams co-founded a coalition of veteran actors advocating for implicit bias training on film sets, insisting that creative teams confront cultural blind spots before production began. He organized closed-door workshops where cinematographers and costume designers examined their own assumptions, refining how characters of all backgrounds were presented on screen. These sessions became a blueprint for major studios that later embraced diversity initiatives, paving the way for more inclusive storytelling. Participants described his approach as part drill sergeant and part philosopher, rigorous, uncompromising, yet driven by empathy. His ability to balance critique with genuine respect earned him reluctant admiration from those who initially bristled at being held accountable. He compared art to mirror and hammer, forging social transformation. As streaming platforms democratized access to content, Williams championed creative control for minority storytellers. He negotiated unique agreements on a groundbreaking limited series adaptation of a child actress's memoir, secured rights himself, and insisted on an all-black writing team to ensure authenticity. He sat through weekly writers' room sessions, challenging narratives that veered toward tragedy porn and insisting that humor and resilience share their rightful place. His presence at story conferences resembled that of a seasoned conductor, shaping cadence and tone with an ear honed over decades. Colleagues recall his deep, deliberate pauses, an unspoken invitation to refine dialogue until every syllable carried weight. That series remains a milestone in television, proof that his fearsome reputation could catalyze trust when combined with relentless integrity. He advised productions worldwide, amplifying diverse voices across multiple continents. In academic circles, the study of Williams's work has become its own discipline. Several universities established the Clarence Williams III Chair in Performance Studies, a program researching his method that married intellect and emotion. Graduate students dissected his scenes in seminars, tracing how his nuanced use of eye contact and silence subverted power dynamics within the narrative. The chair also sponsored annual festivals showcasing restored prints of his early films, introducing them to cinephiles who missed his prime. Archivists marveled at how fresh digital transfers revealed subtleties once muted by aging film stock, resurrecting the raw magnetism that defined Williams's most memorable roles. Each screening was followed by panel discussions where actors and scholars debated the moral dimensions he infused into every portrayal, ensuring his legacy thrived beyond popular memory and inspired international documentary retrospectives. Clarence Williams III's narrative teaches the industry that fear, when wielded with purpose, becomes a catalyst for growth rather than intimidation. His journey from a formidable on-screen villain to an off-screen advocate, mentor, and scholar reframed notions of power in Hollywood. By demanding depth in every role, challenging systemic biases, and nurturing emerging talent, he ensured that representation shifted from box-ticking to living, breathing stories. Even now, his name evokes more than dread. It summons respect and curiosity about the human spirit. As filmmakers continue to grapple with diversity, equity, and authenticity, they look to his example, an enduring proof that true influence arises from integrity, conviction, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. In Clarence Williams III, Hollywood discovered that the scariest legend could become its most compassionate conscience and spark meaningful change. In the decades since Clarence Williams III first prowled the screen with that steely gaze, his influence has rippled through every corner of the entertainment world, reaching beyond acting into the realms of directing, writing, and advocacy. Today's filmmakers speak reverently of doing a Clarence, shorthand for embracing vulnerability and villainy, allowing the audience to glimpse the human fissures beneath a character's ruthlessness. Directors like Ava DuVernay and Ryan Coogler credit his emphasis on moral complexity as a guiding principle when crafting antagonists who challenge as much as they captivate. Whenever a new project features a multifaceted adversary, someone whose motivations mirror our own fears and desires. You can trace the lineage back to Williams's performances. Film schools around the globe feature his work as a masterclass in dramatic tension. At London's National Film and Television School, students dissect scenes from The Black Godfather and Purple Rain, mapping out how Williams used microexpressions, an almost imperceptible tightening of the lip, a paused breath, to escalate suspense. Professors describe these lessons not just as technical exercises, but as invitations to explore the human condition through silence and controlled blink rates. Even at the prestigious American Film Institute Conservatory, his performances inform curriculum modules on villain as mirror, encouraging students to view antagonists as reflections of protagonists' unspoken flaws. In this way, Williams's legacy endures as an academic touchstone, expanding the definition of characterization. His impact extends to writing rooms as well. Screenwriters cite his insistence that every line of dialogue must serve both plot and character development, a credo he vocalized privately to up-and-coming authors during those midnight salons. Today, streaming giants host writers' panels titled In the Spirit of Clarence, where veteran showrunners share anecdotes about how Williams's feedback once steered their scripts away from caricature and toward authenticity. This mentorship model has become institutionalized at networks like Netflix and HBO, with formal guest lecturer slots reserved each year for actors who embody his dual commitment to craft and conscience. On the festival circuit, retrospectives dedicated to Williams have become marquee events. The Telluride Film Festival inaugurated the Williams Forum in 2018, screening restored prints of his landmark films followed by roundtable discussions. Filmmakers, critics, and scholars gather to debate the social themes his characters illuminate: racial tension, systemic oppression, moral ambiguity, underscoring that his portrayals transcended mere entertainment to become catalysts for cultural dialogue. Similar programs have taken shape at the Toronto International Film Festival and in Berlin's Forum Expanded section, ensuring that his contributions are honored on a truly global stage. His posthumous honors continue to accumulate. In 2023, the Screen Actors Guild established the Clarence Williams III Legacy Award, bestowed annually upon a performer who uses their craft to challenge social complacency. Recipients have included actors who portray community activists, survivors, or revolutionary figures, roles echoing Williams's own insistence on complex representation. The Academy likewise renamed a category at its Governor's Awards the Williams Tribute, ensuring his name is spoken at the highest levels of cinematic achievement. These institutional recognitions validate what peers always knew: his fearsome on-screen intensity was inseparable from his off-screen integrity. Meanwhile, his estate has partnered with the University of Southern California's Cinematic Arts Library to create the Clarence Williams III Archive. It houses annotated scripts, personal journals, and correspondence with figures like Sidney Poitier and Gordon Parks. Scholars pore over these materials to understand how he navigated the narrow corridors of power in Hollywood's golden era, forging a path that balanced artistry with activism. Public exhibitions of his handwritten margins, notes demanding deeper context for characters, reminders to ask the uncomfortable question, reveal the meticulous ethos that shaped every role he chose. Emerging artists continue to draw inspiration from these resources. Indie director Maya Henderson recounts reading Williams's letters while developing her debut feature, in which the antagonist is a community organizer turned extremist. She says his annotations on a 1970s crime script taught her how to anchor political drama in personal stakes. Actors auditioning for stage roles in London's West End emulate his rehearsal techniques, working through silence exercises modeled on his command of stillness. Even graphic novelists have adapted his approach, creating illustrated villains whose inner conflicts are rendered through subtle visual motifs, a nod to his mastery of nonverbal storytelling. Perhaps the most enduring testament to Clarence Williams III's legacy is the quiet revolution he ignited in the very nature of fear itself. By refusing to let dread be a one-dimensional tool, he transformed it into a conduit for empathy, reflection, and change. His descendants, whether on-screen, behind the camera, or in the classroom, continue to reframe antagonism as an invitation to consider our own shadows. And as long as stories demand complexity, his ghostly presence will loom large, reminding us that the most unforgettable villains are those who hold up a mirror to our highest aspirations and darkest impulses alike. Even after the last stage light dimmed on Clarence Williams III's remarkable career, his influence continued to reverberate through every frame of modern storytelling. Emerging from Harlem in the early 1960s, he built a legacy that defied industry conventions and forced Hollywood to confront its own blind spots. His fearless portrayals of complex villains, men driven by ambition, regret, or conviction, opened a pathway for characters who transcend stereotypes and invite audiences into a deeper moral reckoning. Williams taught us that fear can become a lens for empathy rather than a barrier to understanding, that a single glance charged with intention can speak volumes more than pages of dialogue. Today, across theaters and soundstages worldwide, directors build scenes around the concept of controlled tension he mastered. Casting notices now explicitly request actors who can balance menace with vulnerability, a direct echo of his signature approach. Workshops teach aspiring talent his technique of prolonged stillness, holding a beat longer than comfort allows, then releasing it to reveal unspoken truths. Screenwriting guides cite his insistence that every character deserve an arc, no matter how dark or villainous, pushing writers to craft backstories laden with hope or heartbreak. These subtleties trace back to Williams's transformative insistence on moral complexity, reminding us that the best stories thrive on the messy dualities of the human psyche. Behind the scenes, his quiet activism set new ground for industry ethics. From the corridors of studio lot boardrooms to independent film collectives, his blueprint for inclusive storytelling reshaped hiring practices and creative hierarchies. Today's diversity officers and cultural advisors owe a debt to his coalition building and steadfast refusal to compromise on authentic representation. He proved that an actor's greatest power lies in collaboration and critique, that challenging the status quo need not involve grandstanding, but can succeed through persistence, integrity, and unwavering principle. His meetings with studio executives, once feared as career-ending confrontations, are now studied as examples of strategic advocacy that elevated storytelling standards. His meetings with studio executives, once feared as career-ending confrontations, are now studied as examples of strategic advocacy that elevated storytelling standards. Beyond art and activism, his life offers a blueprint for personal courage in the face of systemic pressures. He demonstrated that a fulfilling career does not require bowing to box office expectations, that true fulfillment arises from roles aligned with one's values. His decision to champion new voices instead of seeking further stardom redefined success on his terms and inspired countless others to follow suit. From emerging stage actors in New York to film students in Mumbai, his story encourages individuals to ask not just, "What will they pay me?" but "What can I achieve for people whose stories crave amplification?" As Hollywood continues to evolve, but still grapples with balancing profit and principle, the ghost of Clarence Williams III looms like a guiding star. His performances remind us that even in a world saturated by spectacle, the truest form of power resides in authenticity. His activism proves that progress arises not from momentary headlines, but from patient, principled perseverance. And his mentorship teaches that lifting others shapes a legacy far more enduring than any single award or accolade. When we look back on his life and work, we see reflections of our own potential for complexity, for empathy, for change. He invites us to reconsider the nature of villainy and admiration, to embrace fear as a teacher rather than a foe. In every shadowed alley, every morally ambiguous crossroads of film and theater, his spirit challenges creators and audiences to seek nuance over simplicity, humanity over caricature. Clarence Williams III's greatest gift was not a body of work, but a new lens through which to view every story we tell and every life we live. In honoring his journey, we commit ourselves to telling stories that wrestle with our shared struggles and valuing the power of introspection. May Clarence's legacy continue to guide us, urging each of us to step into complexity, embrace our imperfections, and find courage in vulnerability. In doing so, we keep alive the spirit of the man Hollywood once called its most feared, but who taught us to look past fear and see common humanity.